Well, yeah, let's get the show started. So welcome everyone. This is the third session of our Resilient Founder webinar series. It's brought to you by the Yoke Foundation and Tomb Venture Labs, as well as our guest now, Valerie from XAnge. I pronounced it great. Today's topic is balancing family and companies, and we're really excited to have both Andy and Valerie here with us today. So a little bit of context. My name is Anna Ullmann. I'm your host for today's session. I work at Tomb Venture Labs specifically in the Venture Lab Climate and Circular Economy. I'm also pursuing my PhD on the topic of startups and their impact and their resilience. And I'm actually stepping in for my wonderful colleague, Lisa, who was the host of these last few sessions, also sitting with us in the background today. There we go. We're really excited to have her here on this special day as well. She actually just started her parental leave, so it's a lovely coincidence for today's session, really on the topic of family and the work-life balance. For those interested, we can drop the links for the Venture Lab website, Yoke website, or anything else we got some hearts, into the chat. If you have any questions about the organizations, and also feel free to reach out at any time. The only housekeeping that we have is that the Q&A is open, and it would be really wonderful if you could post any specific questions that you have directly in that Q&A chat or in the Q&A session. The chat is open as well, so reactions, comments, whatever, we're more than happy to have them there. And without further ado, I think with the logistics behind us, I'll introduce to you both of our wonderful speakers. And let's start with Valerie. So Valerie Bures, she is a serial entrepreneur, a tech innovator, and an investor. Her background is in computer science, and she also has an executive MBA. She co-founded the women's fitness franchise, Mrs. Sporty, already at age 24, which actually grew to become Europe's largest women's fitness franchise. And later she launched the digital fitness company Pixformance Sports and the smart home fitness brand VAHA, which brought movement, wellness, and holistic health into gyms and into living rooms. And today she focuses her work as a partner at XAnge, managing the German office and supporting new founders. So Valerie, we're really happy to have you here with us today as a mother of 3 who thrives on sports and a balanced lifestyle. You're really embracing those topics. So thank you for joining us.
So super happy to be here.
Wonderful. I'll introduce Andy for you all very quickly as well. For those of you who have joined before, you may already know, or you do already know him. He's an entrepreneur, an impact investor, and founder of Konox and co-founder of Yoke. Out of the Tomb ecosystem here in Munich, the Technical University of Munich, he built one of Europe's fastest growing tech startups already at age 29, created more than 500 million shareholder value. On his journey, he was recognized by Forbes 30 Under 30 and by the World Economic Forum, among others, for his leadership in AI and sustainability. And as an impact investor and co-founder of Yoke, he focuses on conscious leadership and purpose-driven projects that create meaningful social and environmental impact. As always, thank you for being here, Andy.
Thank you. It's so hard to not look at you when we're in the same room. So when I do like this, then it says...
We're making eye contact. Wonderful. All right. The floor is yours.
Yeah, first of all, thank you. It's, as always, one of my biggest pleasures to have a conversation with you, Val, because like every time I speak with you, it is it's heart-based, and we have a beautiful friendship, and I'm just grateful that you took the time, even though I know that your schedule is currently a little bit crazy between traveling, board meetings, parenting, and but I think exactly that is the reason why I asked you to join, because we had the more and more people asking about, hey, how do I manage be an entrepreneur, a founder, and or a leader in business and parenting? And I had and I don't know anybody who kind of does so many things in parallel while being a mother and and being so deeply loving. And so before we get started and before I have my first questions to you, I would just like to quickly check who of you in the room is actually a parent?
Good question.
I have a quiz to back this up as well. So here.
Ah,
So my big goal for 2026
wow.
is to click yes next time in a year from
That's
that's
cool.
the mission. Most important.
Yes.
We talk about ambitions, goals. Like that's for me the most important
Oh,
one. Uh,
perfect.
Okay.
Beautiful. So I think that thank you everybody for answering, because I think, and then I think we can just get just right into it, because Valerie, how would you describe it's like, because when you started your first business, I mean you already were a mother, like, and everybody who experience motherhood knows that it's also a full-time job. So how did you like, why did you start a company when you just got your first child? And then and take us a little bit through your journey, because I think that's first of all it's inspiring, and then we can go from the past into the here and now later a little bit.
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, yeah, I also always love our conversations. So what a pleasure. And yeah, I would say the beauty of my life has been a little bit that I was not asked for most things. Things just happened. So I got pregnant without planning it. And I will always remember that I had a very famous walk with my dad at that time. And I must say we didn't had an easy relationship, but still it was important for me at that time to kind of like talk to him about it. And I was 22, I think, at that point when I got pregnant, and I said, "Hey, I'm pregnant," to my dad, and we were walking around a lake, never forget. And he looked at me and basically said like, "Oh my God, you just finished your studies." And I was very quick with my computer science studies, and I just got a job as a PhD student at a very good group with a big stipendia. And so he was like, "Oh my God, like, I mean, you haven't even made a penny, so to say, and then you want to raise a child." So for him, it was very obvious what to do. And it's very interesting because I also sometimes try to challenge friends with, so to say, having strong opinions, because in this moment I think the true intention of yourself reveals in a way, because in the moment where for him it was so clear that I should not have a child, I was very clear that I don't know, it might be crazy and might be tough, but it's might be a very beautiful magic journey. And it is clearly, and it's very I must say it's actually quite nice to think of that moment back, because today, this morning, I celebrated with exactly that child, my daughter, who's now 22. Crazy. um, and she just signed her first apartment, her own apartment, and just finished her bachelor. How crazy is that? So basically, she's now in the situation I was. And I think, imagine if I wouldn't have had her. I mean, that would have changed my whole life, and probably also me to a big extent, because I feel, if I'm thinking back about having kids and not being maybe asked for or haven't really actively decided on it, I think the most beautiful thing is that I would say I wouldn't be the person I am today. I learned most of all I know today. I actually really learned in the relationship with my kids. So in the end of the day, very big gift. And I mean, obviously it sounds now very romantic, and in the day to day it's not only romantic and beautiful as it sounds. And you know this because, yeah, I just saw 7 of you guys have kids, so you know the actual day to day of this beautiful journey. But it's still it's definitely the biggest gift, and it's definitely a huge part of me today.
Beautiful. I think there's this aspect of you just described it, that you're basically you accepted what the universe wanted to give to you, and based on that, it's basically the surrender that brought you to probably the biggest growth. Because I think this is, and I think this is also why we said we wanted to do this session, because I think the reality of everybody I experience, like you, is that it takes a lot to be a founder. It takes a lot to be a parent. And I think and this open conversation, but what you're doing is just so beautiful for me, because you always, I mean, in the day-to-day it can get crazy, but in the reflection, you see the bigger picture. And I think this is kind of even fuels you with energy to say, hey, like this inner, like, I'm just grateful that I have that experience, and you take this as a mirror. Because I think this is also the other part that you mentioned lately in another conversation with me, to say, like, I see like my children are my mirror, and which I believe is so beautiful. So just maybe taking a quick step back. So you 22 or 23, having the first child, and then why did you start the company? Wasn't it crazy enough? Or was like,
Yeah, that was kind of like the same thing that my wonderful ex-husband and father of my kids, he had this crazy idea of starting Mrs. Sporty, which I thought like was really stupid in first place. And I really wanted to support him with all my loving, so to say, help, but I didn't want it to be part of it. So I helped him to find the first location and the first team and so on and so forth. But however, the first team disappeared. I got into the company. So I was also, again, not asked to do this. But as you say, I do feel, and I mean, you actually said two things. Like you first said, it's a huge element of surrender, and also then in the second part, it's basically seeing the gift of things. I basically saw that, hey, there's an opportunity for me now to do this company with him, and maybe it's not the most brilliant setup with kids and even, I mean, your husband at that time to do this, but let's, so to say, surrender to this to the moment of it, and let's try to do the best out of it. And that's what I always did. So try to see that you can steer and you can have plans, but in the end of the day, this is kind of like a decision, by the universe, what's really happening in your life. And then maybe it's good to surrender to this, and everything you face is somehow a mirror to you, maybe where you're standing in your life right now. And it has, I mean, the journey, of course, of the kids itself, but also of the company itself, gives you so much opportunity to grow all the time, and in combination even more. But it's unique opportunity to challenge yourself, and in that challenge is a growth, which, I mean, I'm very grateful for that I was actually able to do that. So yeah, so it was not a clear choice, to be honest.
and then you had another child.
Yes, that was also very funny. But we had very quickly another child, which was also obviously not planned. So after two kids, then we had it for a while, figured out how to not have kids, to be honest. So these, like, I mean, my first two kids, who are now adult, had to make also journey with us. I mean, they sometimes reflect interestingly about that, of course. And yeah, I had a lot of discussion, of course, like how can you be a woman and at the same time work that much? My mother-in-law thought that I was crazy and my toilet was not clean enough. Obviously, you can't have maybe a perfect toilet if you're still running a big company at the same time. So, I mean, you have to basically take somewhere, you have to excel in a few things, and then maybe some things are not perfect. And that was also something I needed to learn to think what is really important in that moment. I mean, what is important for myself. And for myself, it was clearly having kids and actually also running the company because I loved what we were doing. And I also like to grow and didn't have a perfect toilet. I must say I didn't have much friends or time for friends at that time. And I definitely was not partying like everyone else between 25 and 30. So it's clearly always coming at a cost. And I'm totally okay with that. And there's the surrender part of, I think, thinking the things through and making clear what is a good focus for you.
So how much would you say that, thank you first of all for sharing, and I think there's other people that resonated even like without founding a company, just be parents that it looks quite, it can look like a small war and slightly messy at home, but and I think that's even without running a big company. And I think this is more of a just being human. On the other side, I think that what your journey is, what's so beautiful for me is because you would say there is a challenge, right? And then you jump over that challenge and you grow through that. But the higher the bar raises, and the higher the bar, it doesn't mean like the bigger the company is, but because I think running a faster growing company is probably less complex than compared to saying, okay, I manage so many different contexts and so many different helping another human to develop and grow. And I mean, I have the pleasure that I know I know all three of your beautiful children, and they're like amazing humans. And I think if there's one aspect that parenting is probably, as a parent, I mean, the presence and the love that you can give. So, but still, how did a crazy day to day look like? And maybe you can also then say how it looks like today. But when there were, I don't know, 14, 15, and you were running just started another company, how did the day in the life of Valerie look like?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point because in the beginning, of course, I think when you start your journey as a founder, but also as a parent, and I think that's the same for mother and father. At least, luckily, it was in our relationship, in the sense that, I mean, my ex is Swedish, so we immediately had the understanding of like sharing really the responsibility of the kids, which was actually quite helpful. We even exchanged nights, which I felt was an amazing teamwork. I think that helps a lot. But obviously, we also had a lot of help. And to be honest, I actually really don't know how mothers actually or fathers even do that if they don't have the financial opportunity to have also help at home. So obviously, I mean, we looked at like which schools and kindergartens giving you the opportunity to work for a certain amount of time. I mean, we had always a household helper at home. So we also had a lot of help, but we worked obviously super hard. I mean, we didn't have any financial support before. So we worked super hard in order to be able to actually just afford that. And it's funny because in the beginning, it's just this survival, right? That you sleep little, you work till you drop. My most important thing was that I at least have like 3 hours of in the afternoon with the kids where I actually put my mobile phone down and where I didn't need to check the computer. And said to my assistant, hey, if the company is burning, then call me. But otherwise, I really take out 3 hours where I'm now only with the kids. and I don't want to have any disturbance. And obviously, you still had topics in your mind which were running around, and you couldn't switch off as much as you maybe would have wanted. But it's so you're basically in the survival mode of kind of like managing all this. And yeah, basically my most important thing was like these 2-3 hours per day with the kids, plus maybe running my company successful. And if you do that for 10 to 12 years, as I did, you probably most likely come out with a few health issues like I did, and because it takes a toll to the body clearly. And also what I felt that after a while, I realized you can be as good as you want in terms of like providing financially, even like with time, and also in terms of um, um, money and success in the company. But what I mean, my biggest learning was if you still don't take care of yourself, and it's okay to, so to say, forget that for 3-4 years, but if you forget yourself in the journey, this is going to be hard, because that's something which you basically can't reverse anymore, and your kids see you as you are. And if you don't take care of yourself, then they see you as a person who doesn't take care of him or herself. So my biggest learning was after, I would say 12-13 years, that I took a big shift towards like, who do I actually want to be? And I mean, I started so young, but like 20s, beginning of 20s. So I hadn't figured out who I was after 10 years. I mean, so with 30, I didn't know who I was, basically. I was just a machine taking care of kids and doing a company. But who was I as a person? And that started for me the journey to really understand, like, who am I, and who as a person do I want to be, especially as a role model for my kids. And that was, I would say, I mean, almost like the biggest, most interesting, best learning out of the whole time for me. Yeah.
So basically, thank you for sharing that. So what I always like get when I listen to you is that aspect of you take a lot of motivation from the aspect of role model, right? And I mean, the reality of most human beings is that if you haven't gone through such an intense journey and you're not having yet cultivated a lot of self-love for yourself, right? It is very hard to prioritize yourself. And I think this is independent of parenting, and then parenting just brings you into a deeper experience of being of pure service and unconditional service to somebody else. But I mean, just for some, it takes them more away from themselves. So I think the aspect of what you took is just to say, okay, hey, how would I, like, from that love and service orientation, how would I like my children to be, right? And that's the role model. And I think that's such a beautiful way of thinking, because that brings you to the state, would I want my children to become somebody who gives themselves up, burn out, or be with health issues? No, you want them to be happy, healthy, thriving. And so it's just, again, that the kind of mirror action. And so so because if I think about it, it looks like, okay, that had been a very crazy kind of journey, and then you had another child, and then with you went through probably the craziest burst of bubbles and COVID and running companies, and then so now you're in a position where you help and invest in founders. And so if you're a founder here in the room, you're like, if you want an amazing VC, that's a person to talk to. And I just want to say, so how do you help now founders if they say, hey, but like I'm the CEO, I'm running my company now, I'm going to have children, so what should I do? Like, is it a topic that actually comes up with your portfolio, or is it an unspoken thing yet still?
Yeah, actually, that's a good question. It combines, I think, a lot of things. I would say, unfortunately, most founders don't speak with me about, so to say, private cognitive expenses. It's not that I want that. I mean, it sounds a little bit like this, but I would say, I mean, like, unfortunately, because I would say most of us humans still, or maybe even our society still thinks that business and personal life are very disconnected. And I think very little people in the ecosystem actually see that there's a big connection between who are you as a human and with your personality, and also with your surrounding and family and life, and how is your business. And I just read, actually interesting, that the very, very successful fund, Hummingbird, that they are looking for founders with traumas, childhood traumas. And I mean, it just says that I think you need to be someone who has actually probably overcome certain challenges, or also wants to do that in order to be a founder and overcome the challenges of building a business. And I just saw that someone wrote here this nice question: why don't you just become a employee in your path? I didn't want to do it because I really felt always the freedom of being an entrepreneur is so valuable to me, and also to have the chance to inspire other people in my job, and maybe also create a workplace where people meet maybe a boss who understands, hey, I will only, so to say, give the best for a company if I also get certain, uh, let's say, emotional support or understanding for having kids, for building a family, for actually giving everything to the society to grow and develop. So I felt I always wanted to create these places, but I must say every story is individual. I do understand that a lot of women say, "Hey, I want to have a year or two to just not work while I have small kids." I fully understand it, and I didn't have that with none of my kids. I worked after one day again because I felt it was the right thing for me. But I would say to understand life as a holistic picture, and also yourself in that, and to look at these aspects, it's very healthy. So I would say, if, and I mean, I'm obviously talking to many founders, and I always try to be a good advisor in a sense of also saying, hey, how's your private life looking? What do you do for yourself? And also, when I feel that it might not be the right thing, maybe not the business idea, maybe not being a founder at all, maybe not the setting, how the whole thing is, or even like taking VC money. I mean, I'm getting these questions quite often, like, should I take VC money, like from you, or doing something else? I really try to put it in a context of the person you are, and what is your goal. So it's a topic which I think we should talk more about. And I do think that the performance of a company and also performance of yourself completely is dependent on that topic. So I think it's worth to discuss it more. And yeah, I had actually one founder who called me up and said, "Hey, my wife left me, and I'm sitting here with my 3 kids." And we spoke for an hour of like how to handle that situation. We didn't speak a second about the business. And I thought, wow, that's bold, right? That's really bold, to be so open, and to, yeah, to express fully honest in which situation you are, and actually to get maybe input, maybe to just hear some good words, and yeah, to be actually bold enough to be yourself. And I was really impressed with that founder.
And that's amazing. I think that's the deep trust, and I think ultimately, I mean, if you're just as a founder, think of it, even if you think about it rationally, right? You're in a situation that causes you high stress. You might not perform that well during that time because if you have issues at home, you will carry them with you. That's I've not seen, like, you can do a conscious practice of not bringing your work life home, but the other way around, I haven't seen somebody really mastering that. And I think that's because we're humans and we're social beings, and if we truly love somebody, then it impacts our whole system. So all that said means when you're not when something doesn't work out in your private life, and you're open about that, and even with your VCs or board member, I think the only thing that you can get is compassion and support. Because if you don't say it, I mean, what will happen? Probably you will not perform that well. They will increase the pressure. This pressure will just not help you at all, and then everything just gets harder, right? And I think this is kind of, you can co-create solutions once you're be honest. Otherwise, you think you own the solution. I don't think that's always that's the smartest idea. So I think what the founder did in that case is a very, it's brave, it's open, it's vulnerable, but I think from that space you can start managing solutions. Because I think we also, some friends in our close circle, and they were like, when they were came children, they said like, okay, I need a nanny. Because why did he come to the conclusion? Not because he ever had children before, not just because he had talked to 5 other founders who really had kind of went through the journey, and it destroyed the relationship, or destroyed basically all, and then also the company for sure. And I think that I think another interesting question is, do you think companies should, like the startups should provide financial support for the founders who have parents because usually, I mean, also in the early stages, salaries are quite low, which is normal. And then, but how do you see that perspective? Has ever anybody asked you that?
Wow, I mean, I think that's a little bit this question. I mean, a lot of people might also think, I don't want to be so vulnerable, or I cannot be so bold to basically be honest on what's really happening, because someone will see me then in a bad light, and maybe they don't take me so serious. Or, I mean, we have also all these questions of like, women are then not so seen as, so to say, good workers, because they might have other ideas or other priorities, and all these kind of like topics. And I would say the fear is real. I wouldn't say that all VCs or our economy even is actually built for supporting society in the right way, unfortunately. So I do think, yes, you might meet also a lot of people who don't understand really what you're going through, or who actually even say, hey, I don't care what platforms you have. One is like, fuck you, I mean, and I think I learned that the hard way, in a way that I feel I always want to help. I always want to be empathic. I always wanted to do good, but obviously not everything was good in my life. And I mean, I basically didn't even get a penny, because I was not allowed, as a CEO of a company, I was not allowed to work while I was pregnant, but I didn't get financial support from the health insurance because I was the founder of the company. Isn't that sick? And I think it's still like that. I mean, that was the craziest experience I ever had. However, so I didn't get I was not allowed to get 3 months money. That didn't matter, because it was my own company. I anyway took money out, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't have survived. But the thing is, so I don't think that life is fair, or maybe everyone understands you. And therefore, I don't know like how you could support, or let's say, what's the right structure. I mean, obviously I have some ideas on that, but it's very hard to judge. What I think is very important is that you take responsibility for your own life in these situations. Because if the world doesn't help you, then sorry, you have to help yourself. It sounds really harsh, but I would say that is actually what helped me the most, to think, if there's nobody outside. And I mean, I was in an interesting situation when I was young, because obviously I lost my mom very early. So there was nobody to help me. But the power I learned to think, if there's nobody who helps me, then the full responsibility lies on me, empowered me to, in kind of like optimistic view on life, that you will find a solution. And that was I think the most magical experience I have done in my life, that I felt I have seen quite interesting challenges in my life. But I was always believing and having the faith, you will find a solution. And if this doesn't happen for you in the way you wanted, then there's something which maybe matches you better. And I do feel there's a power out there. So I learned better to accept this is not for you. There you don't get support. There it might be tough. Keep on going. Keep on trying your best, and the magical solution will appear. And actually, it did, even in the most craziest, darkest moments. That somewhere there was some magic appearing. And I feel that the power is actually basically within yourself. You can find it inside yourself.
Thank you for sharing. I think I think this is the moment when you take that mindset that you just said, that when you go out of that victimhood of saying, because you're not the victim. I mean, it's also not beneficial for you to be the victim, and accept that okay, you can only help yourself. That can mean that you get help for yourself, right? But if you don't trigger that, then nobody will do it for you. And I think this is kind of the for me the big takeaway from what you just said. And so when you think about like yourself and putting yourself, I would say putting yourself first, or putting your health now more into the center of importance. So what does it mean for you? Because it's different for everybody, right? What does it mean taking time for Valerie means today?
Yeah, that's also because I read one of the last questions in the chat. It's a question of like, actually, how do you get out of these bad situation, and how do you actually manage to, so to say, bring energy back to yourself, right? That's the question. I hope I understand right. And it's a really good question because obviously, like when I started, as I didn't have much money when I grew up, doing something for yourself meant like buying yourself a nice bag or something, because obviously I couldn't do that. So it went for me really from like things where you think like you have to give yourself something or celebrate your something, to, oh, I mean, obviously when you have kids, you think, okay, a spa weekend where you just lie there and get massages is very nice, right? Today, I would say, I don't know if the massage is so cool for me. So I would say it changes over time what you need. And the most, let's say, the biggest learning for me was that my health and my well-being shifted a lot when I learned that all these emotions, and as also here someone said very correctly, the judgments I actually put on myself, that this is something I don't identify with anymore. And this is actually a sentence I wouldn't have even understood if someone would have said that to me 20 years ago. So what does that mean? It means when I'm thinking about myself, right, is something I make up, but it's not me. It's not actually me. And it's such a journey behind that, to distinct yourself from what you actually think about yourself, and not believe that. Actually, don't listen to what you tell yourself, and just understanding like who you are. It has been, yeah, I would say 25 years of psychological hard work with myself. That is the biggest gift I could have done for my health, for my kids actually, and for myself. So for me, actually now today, to be good to myself is actually sitting down, probably doing absolutely nothing, and understanding, wow, I'm free. Yesterday, a friend asked me, who's also VC, and said like, how is your life? What's going on? And I said to him, you know what? It's actually quite beautiful, because I must say a lot, but somehow also nothing. There's absolutely nothing I really have to do. And there's absolutely nothing I need to do because I think I should do this now, or I have a certain need or something. I can actually just sit here and enjoy. It's a really weird feeling, but I don't need to do anything. It's weird. And yeah, so I do feel this separating of like understanding what your needs are. When you're 20 and you grew up without money, maybe your need is to buy yourself a Louis Vuitton bag. If you have kids and you don't have one single second for yourself, it could be like doing a yoga hour, getting a massage. Being, I don't know, I mean, over 40 and thinking, hey, a very healthy relationship would be good for your life was also a big need I had. But essentially, after thinking all these things about yourself, who you are, what you need, and what you should do, and what other people's maybe expect from you. In the end, probably the biggest beauty is to actually get to the point where you think there's actually nothing than just sitting at the beach or going with your dog and riding out with the horse and enjoying nature. And there's basically just nothing in your head. And that's what I would try. I mean, that would be the biggest dream still, what I would want to do in my life, to give that learning onto people. And I hope I will do that, even with Andy's help.
You will.
So that's my last entrepreneurial, I think, action in my life. But this is it, I would say, for myself.
Yeah, I love that. And I also want to like the background of that is so when I think I was 29 when I mean I wish I would have heard earlier. My first therapy session I think I got with 29. Probably I should have had that, even though my coach, my executive coach was with 26, who was a little bit of my therapist. So I think it kind of went. I think working on yourself and working on those subconscious parts, and for the background of those listening, there's a beautiful methodology that for coaching and therapists that Valerie introduced me to, and also made me sign up to do a training, actually, or a basic training for spending my Saturdays on. It's called resource therapy. It's one of the most powerful concepts for working with your subconscious and working with your different parts and different belief systems, and yeah, really kind of empower yourself and free yourself up. I'm a big fan. I know a lot of Valerie's brought a lot of people towards that. So, but I think this is also time that one give to if you take a therapy session. It's like for sure, it's always easier. I just had a conversation before I entered this room here with a young entrepreneur who said like, yeah, who basically like when I looked at him, I thought like if he would go to the doctor and the doctor would give him a diagnosis that if he doesn't stop work that the way he works, that he would die. Probably that would be the only message he would understand because he can't do it for himself. And so I was like, and I think this is something that happens more often in our world nowadays, where people think those are non-business related stuff, right? But I don't know, when did you had your first therapy session? Mine 20, 26, 29. When did you had your first?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think like also before 30. I must have been like around 30 or something. But maybe you need to also reach a certain age to kind of like be ready for this, so to say. So yeah, it also took me a while to understand and to also, I mean, find the right person to hear, let's say maybe from the right, I mean, what to do really. Like therapy sounds so ill, and in the end of the day, it's really growth. So yeah, you need to be in a
That's
certain
also
way
the
ready
wrong
for it.
perception. I think that's the wrong perception, right? I think I would see that even if you're like, if you're like, I had this weird thing where a lot of well-known founders and I had the same therapist, but we felt better and that we called her a coach and paid her double what we would have paid her as a therapist, just to make our ego not to accept that it's okay to have a coach is okay, but a therapist not, which is for me, I think that we even paid for that wrong assumption. I think now this is something that there are those tools out there, right? And everybody has, and I think for everybody has never tried therapy or the other tools that we share here, right? I think what you mentioned, and every time I call you, you're somewhere like in nature, right? Nature is also that other aspect where there's thousands of studies that it's helps people bring them back to their self, and it's kind of this healing force. But I see Anna here. Anna, what's up?
It's that time, it's the Q&A time, actually, and we have a lot of really nice questions. I love that you were bringing in the questions as well as you saw them pop up, so it was really readable. I think one of them, if I may jump right into it, is we talked about maybe some methods that are useful, whether it's therapy or going into nature. And the second half of one of these questions is, are there any methods or approaches you use to communicate your boundaries? So once you reach that point where you say, okay, I understand myself, I know where I'm at, because that might be the first hurdle. How do I actually communicate that with others? What are the strategies that maybe were useful or were not useful? Is there any insights you can give on that side?
Shall I answer first, Andy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think first, mechanism, I think it's understanding or observing yourself a little bit. When do you actually feel good and when you don't feel good, so to say? So what is the right setting? Is really important in preparation for the tools you use later. Because I feel that people are often very quick to jump into a tool, like, okay, this is going to fix it, but they don't really think about the surrounding of it. What I mean with that, for example, if I want to have time with my kids and I don't want to be disturbed, I do need to think a little bit ahead. How do I organize that? Meaning that, like, it can't be a Monday morning, because obviously the world goes crazy on Monday mornings or something. So, I mean, first of all, think about, like, when is that? Meaning that, will your kids also be in good shape to actually, let's say, enjoy the time with you? Like, don't pick a time directly, maybe after school, because you can only feed them and they nap in your lap. Or, I mean, like, there's so many things, like, where I would say, try to take 5 minutes extra to set up the surroundings and set up the assistant who actually calls you, so that you know you don't need to check your phone, things like that, and maybe even have access to emails, and maybe accept that in these 3 hours it's 80% of performance, or 80% of quality. Or, for example, people always ask me, how can you have your husband actually taking care of your kids? I said, it's very easy. I just accept that maybe the shit goes out of the diapers. So it means I have 2 extra cleaning shifts after that on all sofas and pans and everything. Plus, they only eat pizza with already 2 years old or something, right? But I'm okay with this 80%, and it doesn't need to be perfect. But in that moment, I have my time, to work the 2-3 hours, and then I can be back. So that, I think, is important. Or, for example, a lot of people do therapy like before they go to work. I don't know how good that is. If you, let's say, try to relax and actually your brain works, and then afterwards you put all the shit of work in your brain. I mean, kind of like a lot of things, like, think more also about, like, how you apply tools and not only the tools itself. That I do think is probably underrated in terms of, like, what to do. And then I do think it is a growth journey. I started with normal talking therapy. I did meditation. I love breath work. Today, I would say the most effective is resource therapy, as we talked about. But it's also my journey in this. So try out a lot and be creative about it and learn and develop in that. I don't think there's this one answer and the best. I think it's really depends on the time. Sorry, long answer.
No, that's beautiful. I love it. I think it depends on the probably also on the phase of life, on the situation. Because there's also, like, every time my mind is like I'm like gets very busy or I had a sleep, then I have to do for that. And I write something when I'm very, like, more calm or peaceful, and I think that's one aspect. But I think there's one more aspect that you didn't cover even in the questions here, or that's related to the questions. Is that, I mean, you did a company which was or two of your companies were all about movement, and everybody spends time with Valerie and knows that she moves. She moves you in many ways, but it means also physically you're moved. And so the question is, what is your routine for moving your body? Because I mean, you're VC, you're on boards. That means you're spending time in rooms and with people. But I have never seen anybody who balances it that well. Where you combine those? What's your magic trick?
I think the magic is really just taking out time for yourself. And it sounds crazy because nobody does it and everything else is more important. So I would say in the beginning, so to say, of my life, I had probably like sometimes even only 15 minutes per day. And I'm a big believer. It's so much more important to do 10 minutes of something for your body and indirectly also then for your mind than doing once or twice a week, 1 hour. I mean, even physically, I mean, I'm a studied personal trainer. It's absolutely much more efficient for your body. But I would say I started with 15 minutes a day. I took these 15 minutes as a holy thing just for myself. I hated yoga, by the way. And it's very funny because I'm now addicted to it. So I basically mainly did sometimes like just strength training, and even only 15 minutes of running. Beside obviously that I was always very much about adventure sports. So like on the weekend or when I had vacation, which didn't happen that much in the earlier times, I went for a bit of a crazy stuff. But anyway, this 15 minutes was my holy thing. And now it's towards like I'm doing at least 1 hour, I would say, per day of sports. And it's funny because even if I'm ill, which unfortunately happens also regularly, um, I still take this 1 hour and say, Dan, I'm doing just very slow stretches, but I don't give up on the routine. So staying in a routine and building this routine, I would say, helps you and helps your body actually to need this. And as soon as you feel that need, you hopefully will be able to give in on that. So yeah, I mean, start with 5 minutes. And even if you don't feel like it, but just do it, I would say is the answer, at least for myself.
That's beautiful. There's a one question, which is, how do you shut off your work mode mind when you're with your children?
That's a good question. Probably for me, the easiest is to try to understand their problems and their lives. So that's a good task for my brain then. So I think the easiest was to try to learn from them where they are, what is happening in their lives and what's moving them, by actually trying to have a good conversation. Or even, I mean, sometimes I'm just trying to, I mean, sometimes I don't get times with my kids because I'm not that important, so they rather want to hang with their friends. So then I'm thinking like, okay, then I ask the friends, what's about their lives. Or I'm trying to bribe them with an ice cream, or I'm trying to do an activity with them. So that I'm actually getting into the mode to try to understand their lives. And it's interesting because I feel that kids are don't want to share always everything. I mean, especially having boys, I think it's more difficult for mothers, at least, to get to the true essence of things. And then a later change when the girls become teenagers, then I would say it swaps. However, I felt as soon as I started to do something with them and just spend time actually just trying to understand their lives, that was for me the easiest way to be disturbed, so to say, in a positive for my own life. It was a nice break,
Yeah,
actually.
I think there's one aspect to that which is interesting, is like you are very, like everybody who knows you knows you're a high energy, high performance human being. And so the question is then how then, and probably also in your leadership style and with your people, you have a high expectation to the people you work with, and then you go home and there's this child, and that's exactly not what you want. But in your job, you're the boss, right? And you say something, and sometimes happens, sometimes doesn't. We all know that who let people, and it has to do with ourselves and the other person probably. So the question is, how do you manage that way of expectation of other humans, especially when your children are a little bit older, because they look like some of your.
Yeah, that's a funny thing because my son actually was sitting, we were actually having a drink Friday evening last week with my boyfriend and my son. And then we were actually talking about his smaller sister, and she has to take a decision now in school. And then he said to me, my son said to me, "Hey, Mama, on us, you always had these high expectations. And you know what? It was really good because obviously we didn't do what you wanted, but you at least pushed us to more than what we could have thought of ourselves." And that was interesting because I really feel like he valued it in the sense that he thought that I actually didn't expect anything from them, but I actually enabled them maybe to do more than they thought they could do by themselves. And that was an interesting perspective. And I took my little one and did exactly that. So I was like, I learned something from my son. And I said to her as well, like, what is your expectation of yourself? What do you really want to achieve in life? So I had a very serious conversation with our little one. And then she came up with the most beautiful vision of her own life with 13. I don't know where she took that from, how she wants to change the world and become, and what she wants to become in the world. I don't want to say that now, but it's amazing to just come out with a thought. And then she said after that, like, okay, now I know what I need to do. And I was like, whoa. So it became so clear to her because I had, so to say, I asked her really like, what is her dream and what is her expectation towards life? So I don't think necessarily, so to say, pushing your kids or having high expectation towards your kids is a bad thing if you don't have any emotional attachment as parents towards it. Meaning that if my kids do something which is completely different from what we discussed, I still love them and I cry with them and I laugh with them. And I even, unfortunately, financial support the bullshit they're doing sometimes. So they always know that they can kind of like rely on me in a way, but I would still push them. And I do think this, maybe it's important to, like, I would never be disappointed emotionally of anything they do. To be honest, I don't care. To be honest, I didn't have parents and I didn't have anyone putting expectation on myself. So I'm always saying, like, do whatever you want. In the end of the day, it's your life. And nobody pushed or helped me. So to be honest, I'm here, but it's your choice. So they know that very well.
That is beautiful, and yeah, this is first of all, thank you so much for taking the time. And I know you have a board meeting upcoming, and I think also other people we're off time already. But I just
It's a
say,
lot of fun though.
yeah, it is. It is always, as I said, it's like always with you. It's always fun, and it's always such a big pleasure. Every single conversation. I want to just say from my side, big thank you, and yeah, we have more coming up.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you both from my side as well. Being here for your insights, for taking the time. I'm sure there is a lot of valuable information that everyone can take with them.
Thank you so much. And if someone has questions, you can always ping me as well.
Yeah, exactly. There's some open questions in the Q&A as well. So we have a nice routine here where the ones that are open, they'll be answered in the LinkedIn post through the Yope account. So we'll make sure that all those answers
I love it.
get answered.
Yeah.
Feel free to reach out to any of us at any time. And
exactly.
I'm going to give a little quick one-liner on the next session before everyone drops out of the call. It's already organized, same time, same place. Now in the month on January 20th, and the focus will be on sleep.
And more.
And more. And more.
It's like sleep and more. Beautiful. And thank you everybody for joining. And thank you, Valerie, again. I wish everybody a beautiful Christmas. It's a big happy holiday. It's a great reminder to be present with your family as you would like to be in the business, or that you are in the business. and take care of yourself. And yeah, it's a good time to reflect also, as Valerie just told us from her daughter, to make the vision of who do you want to become next year, and start
No,
your body like you said, at least 15 minutes a day. That's a good habit to build. So a lot of inspiration.
perfect.
Very much.
Thank you so much.
You're
Big
very
love.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.